For the Alliance, from the Fiduciary of the United States of America. August 14, 2019 by Anna Maria Riesinger. Intro: I am doing this the old school way without a teleprompter, so don't expect it to be slick. You will also probably want to have a pen and paper handy to jot things down as we go. 1. The first point I want to make is that we inherited this situation. The people responsible for it are all long since dead and gone. We aren't to blame, but we are responsible for what we do about it now. So it is important that we all do the right thing. 2. So with that firm understanding, let's begin. Point 2. Americans have been living under a largely British-controlled military protectorate since 1863. That is a fact that is never taught to Americans in school, and indeed, most members of the American military have been left unaware of it, too. The only way that we become aware of it is by noticing certain facts, and they are, a. the position of the British monarch as our trustee on the high seas and navigable inland waterways under the Definitive Treaty of Peace, Paris, 1783, and the attendant Admiralty treaties, b. the fact that our Congress never declared the so-called American Civil War, see the genesis of the Lieber Code in 1863, d. the fact that no peace treaty concluded the American Civil War, which was in fact a foreign mercenary conflict, just like Vietnam, staged on our shores, e. the adoption of the Lieber Code as the Hague Conventions. F. The attempt by the Municipal United States Congress to give away our state offices to the United Nations under the International Organizations Immunities Act in 1976, and thus transfer responsibility for our land jurisdiction government to the United Nations. This left the Brits in control of what is supposed to be our navy and the United Nations purportedly in control of our land and soil. 3. Point 3. The foregoing facts lead to the following facts. A. Americans are internationally protected persons under the Geneva Conventions, because we are members of a non-combatant third-party population being occupied by our own army, albeit an army acting as a federal subcontractor operated under our own delegated power. B. The U.S. Department of Defense owes every American an international identification card admitting their actual political status and providing for the exercise of their natural and unalienable rights, and all guarantees owed to their states of the Union by the remaining federal subcontractors, which are the British Territorial United States and the Municipal United States governments. C. The American subcontractor, the actual intended majority interest holder in the federal government, a confederation of states operating as the States of America, has been under reconstruction since 1865, a project that has never been finished by the states and people of this country because our other federal subcontractors usurped upon our lawful government and failed their duty to inform and assist. D. Any role that the United Nations presumes to have in any of this, has been handed to them by the Municipal United States government, which has no authority to do any such thing. The situation is similar to that which results when the heir to an estate has been left uninformed of his heritage, and suddenly finds out. The probate of his estate under the presumption that no heir exists, has to be reversed and the property returned. In the same way, all control of America has to be returned to the Americans it belongs to. 4. And now we get down to the nitty-gritty of how Americans have been mischaracterized, misinformed, and impersonated by our own employees so as to prevent us from operating our government and keep us from accessing the guarantees and credits that are owed to us. A. The first part of the current scam intended to defraud and pillage Americans was put in place by the British Territorial United States subcontractor, via the abuse of our military and unlawful licensing and conscription of private physicians, dentists, nurses and other medical professionals on our soil under their Title 37 Uniformed Officers Code, I. Under duress of losing their ability to practice their profession, medical doctors have been instructed to admit fetal afterbirth materials, what is properly called the amnion, to the hospital as a dying person admitted under the given name of the living baby. E. This then reliably gives rise to an intestate infant decedent estate operating under the given name of a living American baby. This dead impostor is presumed to be a federal dual citizen, under obligation to both the British territorial government and the Roman Municipal United States government franchise. This dead amnion, is thus substituted for a living American baby, and their estate is then operated by members of the Bar Association using dead letters of administration issued by their own circuit courts, for the benefit of the Pope and the Queen, in gross criminal breach of trust. It is self-evident from these practices and the circumstance, that foreign European governments that owe us good faith and service, have deliberately and with malice aforethought set up a criminal enterprise of vast proportions on our shores, all designed to defraud Americans of their identity and their property rights, and that these subcontractors have been misdirected to usurp upon and undermine our lawful government, a government that they are under solemn treaty and commercial contractual obligation to protect and defend. IV. As a result of this identity theft fraud scheme, millions of Americans have been impersonated and in effect, kidnapped, from their natural jurisdiction on the land and soil of this country, and so far as the paperwork goes, we have been genocided on paper by misdirected federal subcontractors. All this has in turn led to completely insupportable legal presumptions being applied to us and to our property assets, a false claim and presumption that our given name represents a dual federal citizen, that this dual federal citizen died intestate as an infant, that the estate of this infant is subject to administration by the Bar Association members, and that the resulting public trust estate is available to serve as chattel property backing the debts of the British territorial government and the municipal United States government, which have colluded to deprive generations of Americans of their freedom and their property assets under conditions of gross criminal breach of trust. The second part of the scam involves manipulation of our monetary system, a process that began shortly after the Civil War hostilities ended. Important, we must pause to note that the parties to the Civil War were all states of states, that is, commercial and business corporations, not actual states, and were all members of the original Confederation of States formed in 1781, whether North or South. Thus, the actual states and the people of the states of the Union were never involved in this mercenary conflict and are thus, not the subject of any war, nor under any presumption of enmity against anyone. We have been innocent third parties throughout. That is, there can be no presumption that we are now or ever were involved in any sedition or rebellion against our own government. In 1868 a Scottish commercial corporation merely calling itself the United States of America, Incorporated, set up shop, infringed upon our proper name in an obviously fraudulent manner, and misrepresenting itself as our lawful government, accessed our credit and stole our gold. This secretive substitution of a Scottish interloper for our intended American federal government then led to the equally secretive substitution of franchises of this commercial corporation operating as British territorial states of states for the missing federal states of states we are owed. Their Scottish state of Wisconsin replaced our American the state of Wisconsin, and nobody was the wiser. Having gutted our credit and having despised our good name, these criminals began preparing, in our names, for bankruptcy. In December of 1898 they concluded an agreement to purchase the Philippine Islands using our money, and began transporting our gold reserves to the Philippines. In 1906–07, they bankrupted the United States of America, Incorporated, and the Filipino government was left as steward. Next, the Pope and the municipal United States took their turn at pillaging and raping America. In addition to the phony territorial states of states set up to administer the foreign military protectorate, the Roman municipal government set up its own phony municipal states of states, and the double-dipping began. The dead baby scam, assisted by the British territorial government, and the Federal Reserve scam was the result. In 1934, the territorial United States Congress declared the Philippine government to be independent so that it could act as trustee of our gold. This is where Ferdinand Marcos and all that association with the Philippines got started, the purchase of the Philippine island land mass using our money back in 1898, followed by this action. Notice that although they declared the Philippine government to be independent, the actual ownership of the land mass of the Philippines remains with us. It was all purchased, in our name, using our money, just like Alaska was purchased from the Russian government. The municipal United States government as a franchise of the City of Rome municipal government, operated as an independent international city-state on our shores. It is a theocracy that worships Baal using the Roman Catholic Church as a storefront. It is supposed to be limited to the 10 miles square of the District of Columbia, and it is supposed to be ruled over by members of our missing federal Congress acting under the provisions of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, to provide an open meeting ground for all the states to send their deputies. Obviously, they have been operating secretively on their own since the 1860s because no American federal government has met in Washington, D.C., since that time. Our seat of government is and always has been in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The run-amok municipal government has treaties and a service contract with our lawful government called the Constitution of the United States, no, of America, which it has grossly violated in thought, word, and deed. We have covered the dead baby scam, so now we will cover both the Federal Reserve and the IRS frauds promulgated by the City of Rome franchise doing business as the municipal United States government, misrepresenting itself as the United States and as the Congress owed to the people of this country. In 1913, with the passage of the Federal Reserve Act, legal tender laws were imposed upon all citizens of the United States, not our United States, the federal municipal United States government. Unfortunately, we were all impacted by this, because we have to carry on trade with them. They established themselves a very profitable exchange rate of $1, their fiat script, for 1 American United States dollar, an ounce of fine silver. They forced us to accept their corporations' IOUs as an equitable exchange for our silver dollars under color of law. They used this exchange rate to fill their coffers with American silver for the cost of printing up paper dollars. In 1934, after deliberately causing the Great Depression and bankrupting their own commercial corporation doing business as the United States of America, Incorporated, which is yet another infringement and constructive fraud, substituting a commercial corporation pretending to be the actual government of this country analogous to the Scottish interloper of 1868, they created a debt-credit domestic monetary system, D. Under a debt-credit system, you either 1. Owe no debts yourself and collect debts as credits, or 2. Everyone concerned is in debt to the others, and the parties exchange debts as credits. It is all based on zero-sum transactions. This is anti-intuitive and against any normal course of business, so pay attention. You go into a burger joint and give the owner a fiat $5 bill in exchange for a hamburger. You have just gotten a hamburger which has actual value, in exchange for an IOU, a debt, in other words. You still owe for that hamburger and no actual money has changed hands. Your debt just grew by $5 and the hamburger joint owner just accrued a $5 debt credit. Every debt creates a credit in exactly the same amount, so there is a zero-sum result, and it is impossible for there to be a debt without an answering debt credit. So, when they talk about the U.S. national debt, you know automatically that there has to be an answering American national credit, the credit payment still due for that actual hamburger. Americans have been accruing American national credit under this system for more than 8 decades, and U.S. municipal United States citizens have been accruing the U.S. national debt under the same system. Our national credit with them is equal to their national debt to us. We, Americans, are by far the largest and highest priority creditors with respect to the U.S. national debt. China is a far distant second runner. This is why the perpetrators of this scheme plotted to kill us all off, thinking that they could escape their debt by killing their priority creditors, just as the Nazis endeavored to kill off the Jewish population that was holding the bulk of their national debt. Who actually owes us the U.S. national debt, our gold, the interest, and the profits? The Pope, the Queen, all their actual, legitimate government franchises, all their banks and corporations worldwide. They have coerced the use of our assets under color of law and forced us to extend our credit for their benefit under conditions of gross breach of trust and treaty for the better part of 2 centuries, and now, they don't want to pay up. Forced extension of our credit, without our consent, and additional false claims against the dead baby estate, is what happens every time their foreign municipal Congress extends the debt limit. Next, we address the situation where both parties owe each other debts in a debt credit system. This is supposed to result in a mutual offset credit exchange exemption. Americans do owe the territorial and municipal governments for stipulated government services that they have provided under the terms of their respective constitutions, and obviously, they owe us trainloads of credit as a result of the monetary system they imposed under color of law. What is supposed to happen according to their own admissions in the 1934 Emergency Banking Act and Federal Title 12, is that we have the right to claim exemption and to demand offset of any federal debts we owe them, against the credit they already owe Americans. This is a situation where I owe Joe $100 and he owes me $1,000, so I agree to knock $100 off what he owes me already. Every time Americans do this offsetting process, the U.S. debt goes down. If this system had been utilized and properly administered from the beginning, the U.S. national debt would have been constantly pared down, but instead, those responsible have kept this a secret from the general public and used various means, most especially, the dead baby scam, to prevent Americans from accessing the American national credit and offsetting federal debts they actually don't owe. Without the counterbalancing effect of the mutual offset credit exchange exemption, the U.S. national debt has increased exponentially. The mysterious $23 trillion credit that the DoD Division of Fiscal Services found on its books, as well as the principal part of the gold in the Philippines plus the actual ownership of the land of this country belongs to the United States of America, unincorporated, and to the member states of the Union and to the people of this country, that is all the long-lost purportedly dead Americans. And now you know why Americans actually are the priority creditors of the U.S. and why we are owed the preponderance of the U.S. national debt. This foregoing circumstance, the constructive dead baby scam leading to denial of the individual Americans' ability to offset federal debts they don't owe and the commandeering of their assets by the bar associations acting under color of law, fraud, and deceit, also leads directly to the IRS fraud. You will remember that the dead fetal afterbirth person registered under our given names as a dual federal citizen owing obligations to both the British territorial and municipal United States governments was also by definition obligated as a result to pay federal debts, including federal income taxes. This same identity theft and impersonation scheme was also used to allow the municipal United States Religious Inquisition to extract payment of federal income taxes and to deny Americans access to the mutual offset credit exchange exemptions they are owed, Forcing people who are not in receipt of any federal income to pay federal income taxes is quite a feat, but using the dead baby scam in concert with other historical maneuvers has allowed the perpetrators to siphon off billions upon billions of dollars worth of fiat debt notes and physical assets belonging to the American people. The principal historical maneuver referenced in connection with this is the victory tax. During the Second World War, the United States Congress offered the opportunity for patriotic Americans to step forward and voluntarily pay an amount equal to what their federal citizen counterparts were paying as income tax, as a special victory tax to help win the war. This special tax was supposed to end at the end of the hostilities and the American volunteers were supposed to be released from any further obligation. This never happened. These patriotic Americans who came to the aid of the British government during its darkest hour were kept on the hook and mercilessly billed and harassed and misidentified as withholding agents, British merchant marine warrant officers, in charge of collecting gift and estate taxes from their own presumed to exist dead baby estate, created by the municipal government in the first place as part of the dead baby scam. The date for the end of the hostilities, which was supposed to mark the end of the collection of the victory tax, is clearly marked at the beginning of Title 50. All of the taxes that were collected after that date in September 1945 from Americans who signed up to pay the victory tax and who were not directly employed by either the territorial United States military government, nor by the municipal government, were collected under conditions of knowing constructive fraud. Even worse, these Americans were again deliberately misidentified as dual citizens under obligation to serve both the foreign British territorial United States government and the Pope's municipal United States government, when in fact they were never actually federal citizens at all and under no such obligations. These gallant volunteers were repaid with vicious continued taxation, vicious false arrest, and vicious seizure of their private assets under conditions of fraud, deceit, and violent racketeering by members of the bar associations and IRS employees. The IRS and the courts being operated by the bar associations are all operating under color of law on our shores. They are all private and foreign entities that should not be here and should not be operating in these capacities at all, misrepresenting themselves as being some part of our lawful government, when in fact they are all nothing but federal subcontractors that are supposed to be limiting their activities to serving actual federal citizens and dealing only with stipulated federal issues. The life insurance fraud, life force value annuities, in addition to all the other disservice that the British government and the popes have provided to this country and its people via the gross, deliberate misadministration of their functions as federal subcontractors, they additionally contrived to ensure their surreptitiously and falsely claimed property, by taking out life insurance policies on all the dead babies, in the form of bottomry bonds placed on the bogus dead baby estates. The British government colluded with the government of Ottawa and its governor to subsume all the dead baby estates into the bankruptcy of Canada, and the annuities generated when these estates were collapsed, died, $950 trillion worth, were paid to Prince Philip as the presumed beneficiary. He resigned from public life 2 days later, in April of 2017, revealed to be the king rat of king rats. And now this is what we have to say as the actual Americans who have officially returned to the land jurisdiction of our country and who are operating the actual states of the Union and our Federation of States called the United States of America, which is unincorporated. We wish for every municipal court, including the U.S. Tax Court, which is improperly operating outside the District of Columbia, to be permanently shut down, immediately, and all CRIS accounts associated with these courts to be seized and held pending disposition to the rightful owners. We wish for all members of the bar associations to be re-educated about these issues and for all circuit courts to be fully informed and strictly limited and subjected to oversight when issuing dead letters of administration. We wish for drastic reform and re-education of the territorial courts as well, so as to ensure compliance with international law and an end to pillaging. We wish for the immediate worldwide recognition of our lawful government as the only government that has any right, reason, or ability to control the affairs of the actual United States in international affairs. We wish for the cessation of all corporate hostilities whatsoever, and for the immediate dismantling of the dead baby scam, the release of all our medical professionals who are not working directly for the military from any obligation of conscription or coercive licensing, and the correction of all our records to reflect that fact that we are not dead, not federal dual citizens, not enemies of anyone, not responsible for any of this deplorable criminality exercised in our names, and not offering to serve in any capacity but that of the lawful government of this country and the priority creditors of the U.S. national debt. We wish for all actual Americans who are not currently working directly for the federal government in the military or federal civil service, to reclaim their birthright political status by public declaration and by joining our actual state assemblies, and for the U.S. Department of Defense, DoD, to 1. Issue proper international identification cards identifying these Americans as state citizens and/or state nationals who are non-combatant civilians owed the law of peace by the military and owed every jot of the guarantees afforded their states under the federal constitutions. 2. Issue credit cards directly attached to their unblocked credit accounts to execute mutual offset credit exchanges to offset the U.S. national debt using the American national credit that is owed to each and every one of them. 3. Work with our state assemblies, remove the private property of these Americans from all public tax rolls and permanently return the freehold land patent to their possession. 5. Shut down all registration activities affecting land and land assets in this country, all of which must be recorded, not registered. We wish for a cessation of all talk of transfer of our wealth to third world countries upon the premise that our assets are abandoned assets, and an end of any presumption that the municipal, civil, not civilian, government had any right or authority to transfer any aspect of our government to the administration of the United Nations, nor any justification to create the dead baby estates and derivatives attached to our given names, either. These are all criminal activities recognized under the Geneva Conventions, and they carry the death penalty should anyone wish to raise their hand and continue these practices. Let them be well advised. We wish for it to be recognized that the British Crown and Government of Westminster in particular has been operated as a crime syndicate on our shores and worldwide, as has the Roman Catholic Church, which has been used as a storefront by criminals, as has the municipal government of Great Britain, as has the municipal United States government, the British Territorial United States government, the various subsidiaries including Canada, and the territorial governments, including the office of the Governor of Ottawa. We wish for Prince Philip and the Governor of Ottawa to be prosecuted for the return of all life force value annuities owed to the natural heirs, including the multi-generational heirs actually owed these annuities. We wish for the entire world to wise up and realize that money and credit are commodities like rice or pork bellies, and that these commodities, no less than all the others, have been commandeered commandeered and manipulated via commodity rigging schemes cooked up by the World Bank and the various territorial governments, that is, commercial corporations in the business of providing governmental services under subcontracts to actual governments, including the creation of the Exchange Stabilization Fund, the London Gold and Silver Exchanges, the Shanghai Exchange, the various other stock and commodity exchanges, and the grossly mismanaged Securities and Exchange Commission organizations worldwide. We wish for the entire world to realize that all the nastiness done in our names was in fact done and ordered by British territorial citizens and Roman municipal denizens, acting as U.S. citizens, working for corporations and institutions which have been criminally mismanaged and misdirected ever since this plague of deceit and criminality was started under the reign of Queen Victoria, when she sold out the British working class by enfranchising them and their assets as chattels to back the Raj in India and to promote herself as Empress of India. We wish for all of you hearing and/or reading this to realize the gravity of the situation and the fact that any GCR will immediately reveal the manipulation that has been readily available all this time, the arbitrary nature of that manipulation of world money supplies and currencies, and the grotesque fault of the bankers and the politicians which has resulted in so much misery and violence for no good reason. We wish for a gentle reseeding of the world markets and believe that this can be adequately accomplished at a microeconomic level simply by converting the debt system to a credit system, allowing people to exercise the mutual offset credit exchange exemptions they were always owed, shutting down the dead baby scam and seizing back the so-called legacy trusts from the administration of bank administrators who have falsely claimed that these are abandoned assets. We have already seen what happens when we leave things to the discretion of members of the bar associations and other bankers. We wish for an end of their hegemony and respect for the titles of nobility amendment made to the Constitution for the United States of America in all dealings regarding us, our property, our courts, and our day-to-day lives until this entire business is brought to a conclusion and all our judicial courts are returned to service. We wish for the realization that the legacy trusts are for the benefit of living, breathing people, including the lawful heirs and the intended beneficiaries, not corporations. Also, they are not abandoned property to be divvied up among cronies to promote political agendas, to buy protection from government contractors, or to otherwise be abused and mischaracterized as public trusts, subject to legal chicanery and to being siphoned off under conditions of fraud, false claims, and deceit. The final point that I wish to make solely in my unique capacity is that we have to let go of the old, before we can embrace the new. If your hands are full of blessings that belong to someone else, you can't have the peace and joy of knowing and enjoying your own. It is apparent that there is far more than enough in terms of resources to wipe out poverty, to provide abundant food and water, to educate everyone on this planet and build a marvelous future, but only if we give up the false assumptions that have been fostered under the Roman Church's doctrine of scarcity, and only if we embrace our true birthright and standing.